Welcome to the Ben and Walker Movie Show. I am your co-host, Ben Davis, joined by my other co-host, Walker Holt, and we're excited to have a conversation with you about one of our favorite things in the world, Glen Coco. You go, Glen Coco, and homeschool kids who turn into bullies. I might know a thing or two about that. If this is your first time being here with us, welcome. We are so glad to have you. And while you're here, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all the latest content that we have for you guys. And if you enjoy your time with us today, leave us a like, share us around, and of course, comment down below with your thoughts on today's show. And don't be mean spirited like the people in the movie we're talking about. This is our monthly deep dive episode where we pick a movie to discuss, usually a movie that is celebrating an anniversary of some kind, one that has like a sequel, a prequel, a spinoff coming out, like the movie we're talking about today, one that we want to discuss to celebrate like an actor or a director, or one where we're celebrating a holiday. And really go into the film, just dive into it, and discuss how we felt about it when we first saw it compared to how we feel about it now, the Rotten Tomatoes score, get into some fun facts, which should totally be taken extremely seriously, and wrap up the show giving out awards to best scenes and moments, worst scenes and moments, best performance, does this make sense award, which is kind of like a plot hole award, any nitpicks we have with the film, and finally give out MVP of the movie. But before I pitch to my esteemed co-host, I must introduce our special guest this week, my better half through all walks of life, Carleigh Davis. How's it going, honey?
Hi. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I love this movie. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. It's been a while since you've been on. I can't remember the last one we did together. What was it? Maybe
Yeah,
Knocked
I
Up?
can't think of what it was either. It was
Knocked
a
Up
long
for
time
your
ago. I mean,
birthday?
at least 2 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, my better half on the pod, Walker. What's going on, man?
Things are good. Things are good. It's feeling great in Wilmington. It's about 70 degrees. Got all the windows open. It's been beautiful all weekend. I've pretty much taken advantage of that by watching a bunch of movies. So that sucks. I never went outside.
Sorry, I don't know how this machine works. Yep, still coming back up. Sorry.
um,
Sorry.
but it's been nice. It's been a good weekend. It's been pretty relaxing. It's good to have you on, Carleigh. It's the first time we've actually officially met face to face. So it's a pleasure.
Yeah, right back at you.
Yeah, this will be fun. We're going to be talking about a fun movie today. Moving on to our main topic, of course, a movie that is totally fetch. I'm going to make that a thing eventually. Mean Girls, which we are discussing in honor of the musical that is currently out in theaters right now. Mean Girls is directed by Mark Waters, stars Lindsay Lohan, Rachel McAdams, Lacey Chabert, Lizzie Kaplan, Daniel Franzisi. That's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Benet, Amanda Seyfried, Tina Fey, Tim Meadows, and Amy Poehler. If you aren't familiar with Mean Girls, the plot synopsis reads like such according to Google. Teenage Katie Heron, and I'm going to mess this up all the time because I want to say Candy so bad, or Caddy.
So you want to say Candy?
I do. I just
Caddy
want to put an
plays.
N. Yeah, I want to put an N in there. Was educated in Africa by her scientist parents. When her family moves to the suburbs of Illinois, Katie finally gets to experience public school and gets a quick primer on the cruel, tactic laws of popularity that divide her fellow students into tightly knit cliques. She unwittingly finds herself in the good graces of an elite group of cool students dubbed the Plastics. But Katie soon realizes how her shallow group of new friends earned the nickname. So, like I said earlier, we're talking about Mean Girls because there's currently a musical version out in theaters right now. I think on last week's episode, I think I briefly gave my thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also another reason we're discussing it. It's celebrating its 20th anniversary coming up in April of this year, which is just insane. Can you guys believe that? This movie's 20 years old.
No, that this is probably the toughest one to to accept.
Yeah.
Elf was tough, but this one's probably the toughest.
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
Off still feels like a kid movie, so it's okay if it gets a little bit older, but this was very much high school, like starting to emerge into adulthood. So if it's old, then
Hmm.
we've got issues.
If it's old, then we're old. This movie doesn't really feel as old as it is because it's aged so well in so many ways, though. And it feels timeless in some ways and not in others. And I'm sure we'll get to that. And it caught on so big with people from our generation. This movie really came out at the perfect time too, because this is before, social media became like a huge thing. You had Rachel, or not Rachel McAdams, but Lindsay Lohan in it, who was on the cusp of a career breakout. Like with people our age, she was huge. She was in The Parent Trap. She was in Get a Clue, the Disney Channel movie, and Freaky Friday. And then you had Rachel McAdams, who I remember seeing in that Rob Schneider movie that I'm forgetting the name of.
The animal, the hot chick.
The Hot Chick. Thank you. Now, this is like her first big movie, but after this, she had The Notebook in the same year.
Mm.
And that's just a couple of the reasons this movie really caught on. When did you guys first see Mean Girls? And of course, how does it compare to how you feel about it now? But also, why do you think it stayed so popular over the years?
I, as usual, couldn't possibly tell you the first time I saw it. These all kind of blend together in my head and going back through adolescence. But I think it it's hard to differentiate the years or the times that I've watched it more recently because it's just so quotable. It's in so many
Mhm.
conversations that I have with people that I graduated high school with and with our friend group. It feels like we've seen it a lot more often, but I hadn't rewatched it until we did our rewatch, and all I could think was, wow, this is the point where now I'm identifying with the adults in the movie. Our friends are the ones that are in the teacher roles, and we're saying, oh, this reminds me of this person, and this reminds me of this person, and we checked, and Tina Fey's character is 32 years old, which is how old I am right now. So it was a moment where you stop identifying with any of the high school kids and start thinking, oh gosh, this is, yeah. It's like when you start agreeing with the parents in Disney movies, you have a problem.
I
That's
had that
nice.
experience with Avatar: The Way of Water. I remember when it was we were discussing it, and I was like, back in the day, I would have related to like the youngest boy in the family. What's his name?
No, God, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't know his name if I watched it yesterday.
It's slipping my memory, but I was like, no, I actually related to Jake more, and I was like, oh God, oh no, I've become the dad. That's what I've become. Walker, what about you? Like, when was the first time you saw it? Like,
I'm probably gonna get kicked off the pod. I've definitely seen parts of it. I definitely knew a lot of the quotes,
mhm.
and I know a lot of the jokes, and I've probably seen the entire movie in pieces before. I mean, there was nothing surprised me in the movie. I kind of knew what was coming next the whole time. It's possible the other night was the first time I've coherently like watched it beginning to end though.
Wow.
I now I could be wrong, but I don't think I ever sat down and watched it.
Okay.
But
Well,
I
your services are no longer needed today. I bid you farewell. No, no, keep going.
I mean, in terms of why I think it stayed so popular over the years, I think it just had its finger on the pulse so well for 2004.
Yeah.
I think it's tough to not be, hello fellow kids, and it's and the fact that they could really be relatable, and 2004s when I was in high school. I don't know. I wonder how well it plays for the kids today. I don't. It's hard. I mean, in terms
It's
of, I
hard to
mean, I
say.
haven't seen
Yeah.
the musical yet. I'm going to see it this week, but I wonder, is it updated at all for like modern?
They update certain things, but it's pretty
The
much
heart's
the
the thing.
same movie, beat for beat,
Yeah.
with some music added in, some things taken out for, you know, to kind of spice it up to make it more appropriate for today, I
Yeah.
guess. I didn't love it. I thought it was fine, but this movie
Mhm.
I love. Much like you guys, like I don't remember. Well, I remember the first time I watched it. I knew of this movie, and I remember like all the quotes of and all the sayings and all that stuff. And I remember it sweeping the MTV Movie Awards in 2005 and being very upset that my favorite movies weren't winning. But I think it the reason I knew all that stuff is because I had two older sisters who this really appealed to. And it wasn't really until what, Carleigh, like 2015, the summer of 2015, where Corey, our friends Corey and Sarah realized that I hadn't seen it. And they're like, oh, we're watching this right now. We're watching this right now. And I was just taken aback because, the quotes are funny, even without the context. But when you given the context of it, this movie's hilarious. It's sharp, it's witty, it's like really like biting in some ways about how mean teenagers can be and how clicky they can be. But it never, like you said, Walker, it never comes across as like, hello, fellow kids, let me tell you how to do things. No, it relates to the kids in
Mhm.
a way. And watching it today, I felt like Carleigh. I was like, oh my God, I'm no longer related to the kids. I'm like seeing the teachers and the students and be like, oh my God, how do you guys deal with this? Or the teachers and the principals and stuff. And like, how do you deal with this every day? This is stressful. Teachers aren't paid nearly enough. But I watch it. I think this is still like really freaking funny.
It is funny. It's very funny. I think it gets better and better as it goes too. I prefer the second act significantly more than the first act, and then I prefer the third act over that. I think it gets better and better as the movie goes on.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just feels so much like you said, Walker, like 2004. It you have that feeling where it actually looks like the high school that I went to high school in, and they have the same kind of worn flyers on the walls, and things aren't quite put away right the way that they should be. It doesn't look like a movie set. It looks like
Hmm.
a high school. And those biting one-liners are kind of the same way, where that's the kind of wit that we really liked, my freshman sophomore year. And I wonder now if we were to watch it with somebody who had recently graduated from high school, if they would feel the same way or if it would feel weird to them.
well, there's a big absence in this movie, and that is what's in high school today, which is social media. There
Yeah.
really isn't
Let's-
any. They put a little bit of that in the new movie.
yeah. I was gonna say it would fit right into the movie. It just
Yeah,
Right.
they put a little bit of
But
that
so many
into
of the
the
plot
new
devices just
movie.
wouldn't work if they had the technology access that we have.
But they make it work in the new one.
They do.
Yeah, they make it work in the new one, like the burn book and what they do with that and everything. It's less dramatic than copying it and throwing it everywhere and stuff like that. But it catches on in this very special time, like I was saying earlier, right before social media boom hits. Like around, when was it, Walker? 2005?
yeah, I'd say 5, 6 probably is when it's. I got Facebook in 2006, and I felt like I was late to the game, but I was probably on
Yeah.
like it. I think it was 2004 is when it launched in college, maybe.
Yeah, I remember my brother got Facebook and MySpace in like 2006 as well.
Oh,
Brothers and
yeah.
sisters, and
There should have
I
been
got a
some
MySpace in
MySpace.
2007. Do what?
There should have been some MySpace.
Was that around then?
Probably. I mean, it was probably pretty fresh. Maybe not when it was being made. Maybe not in 2000, late 2002 or 2003 when it was being filmed, and but it was right on the cusp because it
Yeah.
really did fit. It would have seamlessly fit into the movie, and it's pretty amazing that they still. I don't even know how to say it, but they still like almost captured the essence of social media without it somehow. Like it still felt like the same sort of gossip circles and rumor spreading and things like
Like,
that. That
yeah.
somehow they did it without social media.
It's like
But
the
it,
Marilyn Manson rumor. Everyone heard that rumor, but like, how did we hear that rumor? Who started that rumor? Kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I think this movie, like, it's hard to say because I'm not a teenager, but I still think this movie, the message and everything in it, really hold up. I still think the humor really holds up, minus a couple things. Like, this movie still really works, and it's like a really crisp and smooth hour and a half,
yeah,
like hour and a
yeah.
half, hour 45 minutes. It's really breezy, and I love movies like that. Movies today are really long.
I know, and I'm a grumpy old man that keeps complaining about it. Yeah, it's nice for it to feel like a 87-minute movie or something, and still feel like you spend a good time with it.
It doesn't take up your entire afternoon.
Yep.
It's not like watching, as much as I love it, Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah.
4 hours. Or to be more relevant, Killers of the Flower Moon, which is like 3.5.
Yeah. God.
But at the time, the Rotten Tomato score is pretty high. Like, critic consensus was pretty good on this. The Rotten Tomato score still sits at 84%. It says, elevated by a brilliant screenplay and outstanding ensemble cast, Mean Girls finds fresh female fronted humor in the high school experience. Carleigh, do you agree with this score?
I agree with that score. I mean, it's not perfect. There are things in the movie that are a little overdone. The animal scenes get me every
Mm-hmm.
time. They kind of take me out of the moment. But overall, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and it's supposed to be a little exaggerated. It's supposed to be a little weird. So I get why it wouldn't be for everybody, but I think that high score makes sense.
Yeah. What about you, Walker? What do you
Yeah,
sit?
it's very very close. I mean, I rated it on Friday night when I watched it, and I ended up on an 81. I
81?
always I don't know if I like it or don't like it whenever I feel so close, like because I don't. I mean, I try not to like look at other scores so it doesn't like influence me before I rate it
Yeah.
myself. But I ended up on an 81, which is like in that world of like gotta see it
Yeah,
type.
that's a must
I mean,
see. On our
yeah,
scale, that's must see.
yeah,
Yeah. Anywhere between that 180.
yeah.
I would be pretty high on this. I would probably be around the 90, 91. Again, it's the freshness of it, the quickness of it, the nice little message you have in there, how funny it is, how sharp it is, how witty it is. I think this movie excels because of the script and Tina Fey. And that's why it stayed relevant. The audience score, however, was shockingly low. It was like 66%.
That doesn't make sense to me. I would I
No,
would I would guess the audience score would be at like 94,
right?
and I would guess it would get review bombed in the positive way. Just constant like 100 out of 100. Just nothing but good scores. It really surprises me that it's that low.
Yeah,
Feels
that's
it feels like
shocking.
something's amiss.
Yeah. That happened a similar thing with the 2002 Spider-Man. It's got like an 81% from critics, and then it's like in the 60s for fans. And it's like, that seems off. A lot of people love that movie. But yeah, I mean, good score. I agree with the consensus. I think it's a great consensus. Sometimes they don't always knock it out of the park, but this one's good. But let's move into some fun facts here. In the scene where Katie was asked if her muffin was buttered, the line was originally going to be, "Is your cherry popped?" The same went for the girl who made out with the hot dog. This was going to be masturbated with a hot dog. These were omitted in favor or in order for the film to gain a PG-13 rating instead of an R. The scene in which Katie walks in on Jason and Gretchen kissing in her party is much different in the first draft of the script. Originally, she walks in on Gretchen performing oral sex on Jason, no nudity or nothing graphic, but this was subsequently cut from the final print in order to achieve a PG-13 rating. Again, I would say, like, if this movie came out today, if you put all these things in there, I still think it would get a PG-13 rating. That seems a little harsh, If there's nothing in there and it's just suggested, that seems
Yeah.
weird. And also, I think I would say if the musical hadn't come out and they just did like a modern retelling, this movie would be R. I think they would be.
I think it shouldn't be though. I
Uncomfortable.
mean, I think it needs to be a PG-13 movie,
I agree with
I'm glad it is a PG-13 movie. And I mean, I doubt that would warrant an R today, but 20 years ago, I mean,
that. Yeah,
the world gets more and more desensitized as it goes on. And I'll say muffin buttered is a much funnier line.
it
I think
is.
that
Yeah.
definitely would be a better. They should have put that in there anyway.
Yeah, the muffin buttered is funnier than the because that is something you would go up to say to somebody and they would go, "What?" Cherry popped is very on the nose and very obvious.
Yeah, because the 11-year-old plastics need to be able to see this movie. I think. So,
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I think PG-13 rating is the way to go, but I could see if someone wanting to push this rating to R. You seem to be in disagreement,
I mean, I just don't.
Carleigh.
I think Walker's right. The context of this movie, it has to be PG-13. That you can't have an R-rated movie that has this kind of a plot line to it where the main cast is supposed to be 16 years old. That it just doesn't work.
American Pie, super bad.
Ugh, don't get me started. Well, sex
American
scene in there too.
Pie,
Like that is, yeah,
yeah.
it's warranted.
American Pie has not aged very well. Superbad has some stuff that hasn't aged well, but still, that there's not. I don't think there's really any nudity in Superbad, is there? There's just a lot of swearing.
yeah, I mean, but I mean, it's
There's a
pretty
lot of
adult.
suggestive, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, just the dialogue in general is
is
pretty. I mean, just in the opening
grotesque.
5 minutes
Yeah,
is
yeah,
pretty stiff.
yeah. No pun intended.
And I think both of those though have that element of adults or maybe young adults, but adults still looking backward and kind of
No,
retroactively imposing glory days on their adolescence, on their high school experience. Mean Girls, I don't think does that. I think Mean Girls is
no.
for a teenage audience, or we who
Yeah,
were
it's
then a
just two
teenage
different
audience.
films too, and they just have different tones. I mean, I mean, there's a good point with American Pie and Superbad. I that opened up a different like thought in my head, but it's just it would change the movie. I think
It
if they went
would.
for an R.
It wouldn't have the broad appeal. Like Superbad is
Yeah.
still talked about, but it's talked about in a very different way as
Mhm.
opposed to something like Mean Girls, which you can show someone in middle school or someone who's about to go into middle school. You can't do that, or you shouldn't do that with like something like Superbad. It's
Mhm.
different. It's very different. But staying on that same topic, it was becoming difficult to keep the white set vagina joke to receive the PG-13 rating. The director argued that it was sexist because the film Anchorman had a similar dialogue and still received the PG-13 rating. I agree. That is
Yep.
sexist and stupid. You can say
Yeah.
penis, but you can't say vagina.
Yeah. I mean, that is dumb, and I mean, it's always interesting when people raise comparisons to other films. And I remember maybe Zach and Miri got a lot of flack, I guess, about like the corn scene, and they referenced like I think they wanted to give him like NC-17 or something for it, and they were like, well, Jackass has literal. Like it was just the comparison was interesting.
Yeah. It's weird. The MPAA is or MPA, I guess it is now, is a flawed system. Very flawed.
Do you think that would still be contentious now? I mean, I think there's so much more
No,
awareness now that
Yeah,
bodies are not a thing to not talk about, and I don't think that that would be as nearly as much of a problem right now.
no,
I don't either. I agree.
yeah. Initially, Lindsay Lohan was cast as Regina, but she decided to play the nice girl, so the public would not base her real personality on Regina's. Rachel McAdams was chosen to play Mean Girl Regina George because only nice girls can play mean girls, according to the producer. Now, there is some conflicting reports with this. I also read where Lindsay Lohan wanted to be cast as Regina George, but because of Freaky Friday, they did, and all the other Disney stuff, they didn't want her in that type of role. But regardless, I think the perfect casting happened here.
I agree. I think it's cast correctly, and I think it works very well with the casting. It's an interesting tidbit.
It's also like I said, I rattled off like 3 movies that Lindsay Lohan had done, and they were all Disney movies. They're all associated with kids. And there's also like Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. I think came out like a month or 2 before this too. So yeah, that makes sense to keep her in the nice girl, as it were, role. Yep, as I said, this is the first non-Disney movie Lindsay Lohan stars in. Forgot to even put that fun fact in here.
The Parent Trap's such a banger. I like that was a big movie in my house.
Yeah, it's a great one, man. It taught me the secret, the delicious secret that is peanut butter and Oreos. Mm-hmm. That used to be my go-to movie that I would watch when I was sick.
It was like my brother's favorite movie. He watched it constantly.
Awesome. This is Amanda Seyfried's first film role playing Karen Smith. She's so good in this.
She's
funny
great.
that that's her role in this though, because she does so many other like really serious and heavy. Yeah.
The what's it called? The Elizabeth Holmes TV show, The Dropout that she did.
Oh yeah.
On Hulu. It's completely actually it's not. They're both kind of oddball roles, but different agenda. I love her in this movie. I think she's hysterical. I think she nails what she's going for.
She does. She's marvelous. Yeah, she's not known for doing stuff like this, although she has done comedy. She's great in Ted 2. Which, by the way, Ted the TV show, shout out, hilarious.
I'm just about to start that tonight, maybe.
Have fun.
Amy Poehler. Seen a single part of it, but you laughing hysterically next to me while I'm sleeping has been.
Yeah. There is a lot of jokes that are really freaking funny. It's set in the 90s. It's nice. Amy Poehler, who plays Mrs. George, the cool mom, is only 7 years older than her on-screen daughter, Rachel McAdams. Similarly, Lindsay Lohan and Rachel McAdams played characters who attend the same school and are in the same grade despite the 8-year age difference between the two actresses, Lindsay Lohan being younger than Rachel McAdams. It's crazy. Movies always do this.
When you were reading just the opening and reading like the cast and everything, every time Amy Poehler's name comes up, I keep laughing. Like Jess loves that Baby Mama movie. Have you seen that with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler? And like when every time she sees Amy Poehler, there's the scene where they're like in like the birthing class or whatever, and they're like, is anyone thinking about using drugs for their birth? It's like, woo-hoo! And just constantly, it's like, woo-hoo! It's so funny. I think it's.
Yeah, it's a good one. Whenever I think of Amy Poehler, I think of Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
she's so good. Leslie Knope, also Andy Dwyer.
Yeah, that's funny. Classic.
The lost one of those lines, though. But do you want a little bit of alcohol? Because if you're going to drink, I'd rather you do it in the house. Like that's one of those things where I know, like. I remember hearing parents say that in high school. I won't point at any specific parents, but I know that was a line. And now I'm wondering which came first. Was that a thing that parents said, so she said it, or was that a thing that she said, so it took on?
I bet it was already a thing.
I bet they used already a thing.
Based it on experience.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think the that was teasing something that she had gone through, like Walker said, actual experience. This is the first feature film screenwriting by Tina Fey. This is her debut.
She nailed it.
She knocked it out of the park. She mostly sticks to TV now and stuff, but I really wish she would do another movie because
Yeah,
she
she's
knocked
great. She's
knocked
great
this
and
one out of the
everything.
park. Yeah, she was really funny. Great on SNL. I know 30 Rock is a show a lot of people love. I've only seen a few episodes.
I've never seen it, and I hear it's great. I'm sure I
Yeah,
would love it.
yeah. Tina Fey envisioned backgrounds for all the characters. If any of the actors had questions for the characters, she would fill in the blanks for them. That is really awesome and detailed work, and it really shows too.
Yeah, I mean the characters are the best part of this movie. I think this is just full of well written and
Hmm.
well performed characters from top to bottom. It's probably, I mean, it's my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, completely agree. Um,
Yeah, they all
and the
feel really
last,
well formed, and you can see the relationships kind of under the surface too.
yeah, they all feel like natural in their performances, and I think that's another reason why it might have aged as well. It's very detailed. The slang term "fetch," short for fetching, was invented by Tina Fey. She didn't want to use an expression teenagers actually use because she didn't want it to become dated or outdated later. That is genius.
Yeah, it's perfect, and it's the perfect. It's like Riz now. I mean, it's ahead of its
Yeah,
time, and another reason it's aged so well.
yeah, because it's still that's part of the joke. Is it's not a thing. Stop trying to make it a thing. So even when you say it, it's still it catches on. It's totally fetch. Yeah, that is a bit of genius writing by Tina Fey. Love it. Alrighty, guys, but let's move ahead to our award section. We have best scenes and moments starting up. Now, listen, I tried to normally like get this down to like a solid 10, but sometimes I have difficulty because there's just so many things to discuss. The opening homeschooled kid joke is so damn funny. You
You
have
would
like the
know.
I know, I would know, homeschooled 5 years. What she say? She says something about like overly religious. God invented the bolt Remington action rifle to defend us against the dinosaurs and the homosexuals.
That is good.
So freaking funny. Always appreciate a good homeschool joke. They're always funny. Introduction of the plastics. Pretty iconic.
Oh yeah,
Just getting
definitely.
Rachel McAdams getting carried by was it the football team or something like that?
Have you ever seen the Heathers
No.
with Christian Slater? This movie reminds me of it a lot. I mean, it's way more. It's darker. I mean, it's a comedy, but it's a comedy that ends with like a
Like a death,
school
right?
violence,
Yeah.
and but it's very like it's like black comedy satire. I mean, I think they made it into a musical just like Mean Girls, but it's very. I mean, the Heathers is a clique of four or a few girls named the Heather
Yeah.
at the school, which is it reminds me of it a lot.
The Heathers. Katie meets the plastics. So I love this sequence mostly because of the interaction and the one dialogue of, "Oh, you're so pretty. Thank you. Oh, so you agree? You agree that you're pretty? I mean, oh, what's this?" It's like that subtle, like little jabs, and it's so catty, and it is so accurate to how I've seen certain people talk when I was in high school. It was
Yeah,
so realistic.
That and can you give us some
very.
privacy? And then this is the privacy, just talking behind the hand
Yeah,
when she's a foot and a half away from them.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's
funny that
played
they
so
all sit
well.
on one side of the table too.
Hmm.
That is weird.
Like they're like open for like an audience if they need one.
Hmm. Open to
You get to
judge, so they
see
can look out and judge everybody.
you get to see how awkward Katie is in that scene too, because she does the little like the shoulder shrug of I don't know where to sit and how to navigate somebody talking to her when Janice is expecting her on the other side of the room. And then Karen's, if you're from Africa, then why are you white? Just that whole interaction and their facial expressions, it's so well done.
Yeah, it's well performed. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned the body language of Lindsay Lohan. It's terrific. Like the shoulders forward, head down, like don't really feel confident, don't really want to be seen. And then as the movie progresses, she goes into that confidence, walking chest high, face up. It's really nice little detail by Lindsay Lohan. The line, "My God, Danny DeVito, I love your work," gets a laugh every time.
Yeah, this was probably the hardest I laughed
Yeah.
during the movie. I did not know that line. I was not familiar with it and thought it was hysterical when I heard it.
Yeah. It caught a hard laugh from me. Almost woke up the girl this morning laughing at it. No, he's my first cousin. He's not my cousin.
Yeah, she's really
Dude.
funny, and I mean, I think she's she just plays this idiot so well. I think it's great.
It's so funny. And then like she keeps staring at him and then looking at him and waving and eventually goes over to him in the party. Real funny. Regina giving her version of the backstory between her and Janice and the backhanded compliment. That's the thing that also sticks out. The, "Oh my God, where'd you get that skirt?" "Oh, it's 90s. It's from my mom." "Oh, it's so gorgeous." Walks away. That is so hideous. So fake and mean and messed up.
Yeah, I like the skirt kind of.
I did
It was
too.
kind of cool looking.
I like the skirt and the bracelet. Yeah.
Yeah. The talent show.
Yeah.
The audience reaction is just so funny. Because again, I'm seeing myself as a father now being in the audience watching this, how like uncomfortable and like, oh God, like I would be if I saw this.
I like the first performance too. I forget the kid's name, the boy, but when he's like rapping and then afterwards, like, "Thanks guys, have a good night," and then like
Kevin
walks off
G.
the stage. Yeah,
Kevin G. Yes. This
Okay,
is of
so I
course.
remember talent shows and them making us do like I only did one because it was a horrible experience, but they made us do the routine ahead of time and they had to like check our outfits and everything like that. And then there's this chaos that's just happening on screen where they're they're in these ridiculous skimpy dresses and Kevin has this rap like
I don't remember. I did one talent show and it was a really bad experience. It was very embarrassing. Um, and it was, and thinking back on it's even worse. We did. Have you ever seen Grease 2?
Of course it would be Grease.
But there's a song called "Prowlin'," which is, it was in fourth grade and it was unbelievably inappropriate song for fourth grade. I mean, unbelievable. And it was me and the rest of the T-Birds, and I was the lead singer, and they like dropped down to their knees, like, "Come on and tell us, Johnny, what's the secret?" And I was, and I had a toy
Who
like
were the other
microphone stand.
T-Birds?
I don't want to say.
Or
I don't want to
get
say.
out people online like that
I
without
definitely know who they were.
can you
God,
tell me like after the show?
yeah,
Do I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
do I know them?
You know, one of them at least. It I had a toy microphone stand that it was like plastic with it rose up and had a microphone, and then the bottom had a little speaker on it that you could like do a little karaoke in your house or something. I
Yeah.
just didn't think they'd have that kind like equipment at the talent show. I didn't think they'd have microphones and things like that. They had a full thing, but there's like scenes in the movie where he like spins the microphone by the cord and like throws it up and catches it and like uses the microphone stand and like dances and sings with it. And we practiced a lot. Like they came over to my house a lot and we practiced it. And when we got on stage, it was not as cool as we thought it was. It was so embarrassing. I was so scared. And like, I remember just singing, just kind of prowling. And I looked out and saw my dad in the audience, and he was like, he was like acting like he was spinning the mic. He's like, "Come on, get it!" And I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die." and and then the next year we planned on doing Sister Hazel All for You, and then it was like, actually, let's just not do it.
That's awesome.
It was
That's
pretty. It was
hilarious.
pretty low point.
See, I never did a talent show, but Carleigh, what did you do for your talent show? You
I
don't have to
regret
say it if you don't want
instantly
to,
bringing this up, although
because I
it
did
wasn't
not know
realized.
about this.
So this was 5th grade, I think. And I was very quiet in 5th grade, like talked to almost no one, just very introvert in the back of the class. And somehow me and 2 of my friends got it into our heads that we were going to do a choreographed dance to Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll. And it happened publicly.
Is this on tape?
No, I don't even know if
So
my parents
I
came.
can't contact Larry and Amy and
I'm sure they came
see
because
if
they're
they got
wonderful and
this.
supportive parents, but I don't. I must have blacked all of that out. I have no idea what happened. I know Heather made the choreography, and we practiced in my hallway at the house and fell a lot. But I very vividly recall them looking over our outfits and saying, my pants were too tight. We just had on like white t-shirts and black pants, and they wouldn't let me wear the pants that I wanted to wear because they were too tight. And I was like, they're pants. What do you want? So I think
See,
it's hilarious that they're in these really skimpy dresses.
yeah, yeah. The really skippy dresses, the skipping of the CD player, that being a whole thing, and they have to pause midway, and then she saves them. Katie saves them by her singing, which is funny because Lindsay Lohan was like a talented singer. I think she probably still is a talented singer. But yeah, I have no cool talents shows to tell you guys about. None. The lame kid
You have
here.
all the cool talents.
I don't think. I think you come out on top. I don't think.
Yep,
I don't think our stories were super cool.
No, but
everybody
funny.
regrets their talent show experience. Well, and the movie even points to that, right? Because they had this catastrophe where the CD skipped and then Gretchen kicked it into Jason's face and like broke his nose, and they gloss over that completely. And then at the end, they're like, "Wow, that's the best it ever went." It's just complete catastrophe. You're injured and bleeding at the end.
And this is, of course, where the iconic "Stop trying to make fetch happen" happens. It's great.
It's a good line.
Good line. Good scene. Karen tells Katie about her fifth sense.
It's funny.
Her boobs can tell the weather. Freaking funny.
She's great in the whole movie. I mean, I don't think there's a scene with her like shine, like with her in the spotlight that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah. Boo, you whore. It's such a great line.
And
it's something I'm
it's her
pretty
face
sure
that
I've.
makes that line good.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's something I have said to somebody when they tell me no. They're just like, boo, you suck. Burn Book Fallout / Gym Assembly. This is great.
It was good. I like the twist too of her like doing it and it being her pick. I mean, that was well done.
Mm-hmm. The way they frame
I
it,
will try to pause it there and see if you can see whose name she's writing before she flips the picture around. Mm-hmm. But I never get it so that you can actually tell.
Yeah, it's like they do it just right to where you think the setup is she's going to put Lindsay Lohan there or Katie, but she doesn't. She puts her there, plays victim, tells on her, shows it to the principal, and then throws all the pages across, makes copies, and everyone goes crazy. And of course, the principal coming out with the baseball bat.
He's great. I think Tim Meadows is hilarious in it, and the whole time, just like what did we watch recently with Tim Meadows? Because I brought him up. Maybe we talked about a trailer of his or something.
I don't know, but we've talked about Walk Hard and
he's a poker face, and then every time I see him, I was like, "Ooh, it's a lady."
Yeah,
it's a ladies' man. I mean, a
ladies' man. Yeah, yeah. So freaking funny. The whole like, people make fun of me because I have to buy like bigger tampons because I have a heavy flow because I have a wide set vagina, and just the eye roll, and it's like, okay, I'm not doing this. Let me give it to you. You handle this.
It's funny.
She doesn't even go here. He's
That's
wearing the
funny.
sunglasses and the hoodie, and it's like, yeah, it's
Just have a
great.
lot of emotions.
Yeah,
Tina Fey is great in the. I mean, she
yeah.
she nailed the screenplay, but her performance in it's awesome too. She's very cool in it.
Well, the whole sequence too is about female empowerment and staying together and being there to support each other and not going at each other's throats because it gives everyone else the excuse to do the same thing.
You also see, like, again, this is another thing that hits really differently as an adult now than it did in high school. Tina Fey suddenly being responsible for this stupid idea of the principal's to let's talk about our lady problems, and then he can't handle it, immediately nopes it off to her, and now she has to come up with some productive workshop on the spot to help these girls through their issues when she didn't want to be a part of it to begin with. And it's just really funny to watch her like shake it off and kind of embrace that role and then step into it.
Yeah, take ownership and leadership really quickly. And then, of course, the ending of this always gets me because I remember the first time I watched it, like Corey and Sarah's reaction when Gretchen, or not Gretchen,
Regina.
Regina, thank you. Regina gets hit by the bus. And that's the day that Regina died. And I was like, oh my God. The first time I saw her, I was like, oh my God. What just happened? And then, of course, she doesn't die, but it was so shocking. Was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, that's what I kind of forgot. I knew it was coming when it was coming, but I forgot about it. And I think on the my really messy rewatch, considering I had barely seen the movie in full, when she almost gets hit at the beginning, because like
Yeah.
which is also a pretty funny scene. I mean that's good foreshadowing, but I think I forget it
Yeah,
threw me off a little bit.
they allude to it quite a bit. There's a couple
Mhm.
lines and stuff like that they say as well. The last one we have is Katie's speech. It's
Yeah,
It's
nice.
feel
sweet.
good.
Yeah,
It's feel good.
it's really nice. It's really sweet,
Delivers at
and
home with a good punch.
it's really nice, really sweet, and makes the movie end on a really good note. But out of all these sequences, guys, which one's your favorite?
I mean, I love the Danny DeVito joke. I think that's funny, but I
Yeah.
don't want that to be my favorite. Uh, you have one
Listen,
in mind, Carleigh, already?
if you don't take the my
I don't think
God,
my
Danny
favorite
DeVito, I
one's
love your
on
work.
here. So
Which
Oh,
one?
you can add.
my favorite scene or my favorite moment is the Planned Parenthood moment in the mall.
Oh yeah, that's a
Yep.
huge moment. That's probably one of the
Yeah.
most famous things. Yeah,
Where
that's. I
she
feel like that's probably the number one thing I've heard, like quoted or whatever. You know
Really?
what? Like you'll get pregnant and die. Is
no, no, no,
that what
no.
you're talking? Oh,
Where they're in the mall and they see Jason with the other girl Taylor, and Regina says to Gretchen, "Oh no, he's not going to blow you off like that." And then calls Taylor's mom, pretending to be from Planned Parenthood, and says, "Can you have Taylor call me back? Her test results are in." And then it's, "Oh
oh,
no,
that
she's
is
not
funny.
dating anybody now." Like that totally encapsulates the mean girl that is Regina George. Taylor didn't do anything wrong. She's just this innocent bystander in this scenario. And this isn't like a little spreading a rumor about you in high school thing. She just called her mom pretending to be a doctor and blew this girl's life up.
Yeah, that's
And
funny. That is
Jason
good.
doesn't suffer in that situation at all, right? Like
No.
he doesn't get any of the flack there. So I think that's just the perfect like instant thought. She didn't have to plan it or anything. She just knew instantly what she was going to do, and it was the most evil thing that one could possibly imagine doing in that situation. So I just think that's the perfect character moment for her, and I love it. But
That is a great moment. That
That is a
that
great
that was
moment.
I didn't remember that the first time seeing it. What I'm saying is the most quoted thing. I thought you were talking about like the if you have sex, you'll get pregnant and die because I
Yeah.
feel like
And
that's
that
probably
Don't do it sitting
the
down.
most
Don't do it
heavily.
standing up. Just don't do it. Here's some condoms.
Yeah, the and then the other quoted thing, which has been just Regal has just ruined it, was just that you can't sit with us. I Regal, that opening promo at
Thank God
Regal,
it's
there are the
gone.
quotes
yes,
Thank
that it
amen.
is ruined.
God it's
So hey,
gone.
you got. I bring it up every week because I hate it.
Yeah, it's the worst.
I'm glad it's gone. Yeah, I'll go Danny DeVito then, since
Okay,
that feels like the reason.
if you're gonna go that, because that's if you weren't gonna go that direction, I was, because
Mhm.
I love that line. I think for me, then I will go. Man, I will go with the Burnbrook Fallout Gym Assembly.
Yeah, that's a good. That'd probably be my next one.
No, I think those are three really good scenes that encapsulate the movie. Worst scenes and moments. I only have two here, and it's the coach and the student get caught making out. Like it's just kind of gross,
Yeah, it's probably not necessary. It's not
and
that
it's
funny.
played up
It's not
for
worth the joke.
yeah, it's played up to be funny. And in the context, even then, for me, like that's not funny back then, but like especially today, it's not funny. That would be serious.
Yeah, and even if you can, you know, give it a, you know, give it the benefit of the doubt of the
Yeah,
joke or whatever from when we were 14 years, whatever. It's still just like not worth the. It's not worth the laugh because
no,
it's not that funny. Even if you can take a step back and not be offended by it, it's still just not that funny.
no. Movie's fine without it.
Yeah.
I'm a pusher. Don't like this.
Remind me of this.
I'm a pusher. It's the scene where she's telling her because she knows that she's flunking on purpose, like
Oh,
flunking her math tests on purpose, where she like tells her a bunch of stuff like letting her in on her personal life and telling her, "Oh, I'm going to push you because I know there's more to you." Like it tries to come off as like a empowering speech from a teacher, like someone that believes in you, but it doesn't really come across that way. It comes across as just like a little too much.
Oversharing
gotcha.
and a little overacted, I think.
Yeah. Those are the only two though that I have for this. This is generally like a very breezy movie that I don't really have a lot of problems with.
I definitely go Coach.
Yeah, I do too.
I continue
Best
to hate the animal scenes. They're so
the
bad.
animal scenes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the one where Katie envisions tackling Regina and you just see Gretchen in the background going, it's the most bizarre moment. Like,
I
I know
think
what
it's
you're talking
I
about.
think they're funny, but I get it.
That's
Best performance. I think this is easy. I think it's Rachel McAdams. She
yeah. I think that's probably the right answer. That's when I was trying to think of what I was going to give these awards to. She's who I ended up on. But I mean, I've mentioned Amanda Seyfried several times
yeah,
in this
she's
podcast. I
funny.
really enjoyed her in it.
Yeah. She's like the funny character that I don't feel enough people talk about.
Yeah, I mean, but Regina George is a more
It's
it's a better performance.
everybody
I
forgets
I
about her because
do.
she's such a slut.
God. uh yeah. Such a both of them are such a great performances, but Rachel McAdams, this the entire year was a big year for her. Two very
Mhm.
iconic roles in this and The Notebook, regardless of my feelings on The Notebook. She's great at eye roll from Carleigh.
My husband, who will not watch The Notebook with me because he insists it's not a romantic movie.
It's not. It's not at all. It is so messed up. It is abusive. It is ridiculous. The old couple portion of it is incredibly sweet and romantic. The younger characters, bah.
You don't think it's romantic that they grew past their flaws together and became the older couple?
Okay, that part is, but everything leading up to that point, not so much.
Okay, I'm sorry, we'll stop.
No, but I will watch any other romantic movie you want me to watch with you. You know I'm a sucker for romance.
Absolutely.
the Does This Make Sense award. Do kids still do three-way call attacks? Were you ever a victim of one of these, Walker? Because I was.
Oh, I'm sure I was. I was. I mean, I've definitely been on a three way call,
Yeah.
muted or with someone. I mean, I've definitely done this before.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've been. I've never awarely. I mean, I don't have the awareness of me being a victim of it, but I'm sure I was. And I'm sure kids have even more vicious ways to do it now.
Yeah. Social media exists.
I was just thinking that the number of three-way call attacks that I saw professionally, just and even in the past few weeks, where it's not a three-way call, it's a BCC on an email, and we do this as adults
Mm,
constantly.
mm.
This is still our way to
God,
go.
that is, yeah. It's funny. The BCC. I always sometimes it feels like an appropriate time to do it, and every time I'm like, is this bullshit? Should I just not do this? Like, is this a lame move? Like, and then I feel like I guess I wouldn't get caught, but if I did, I would feel like kind of embarrassed that I did it.
Right. Can you even three-way call on an iPhone? I don't know how to do
Yeah,
Oh
that.
you can.
yeah. Yeah, you
You can?
can. Yeah.
Yeah, you just like flip lines and then click merge calls. But I don't know if it would like show up as two people calling you.
Usually,
No,
well, I don't
I don't
think
know.
it does actually. I think it's just one person calling you, and then usually when that's happened to me, it's like, "Hey, this person's on the line. Let's talk." It's
And my
never.
guess is most kids don't even have the phone app on their home screen. I guess is they just don't even use it. They don't. They're like, "Why are you calling me? Is it an emergency?"
Yeah. It's like the joke in 21 Jump Street. The only people who call are like my grandma.
Which is now an
Other
old movie, so
Oh god, it is, and it just that makes me feel old because that was my favorite high school movie. Even though it came out like 3 months before I was about to graduate high school, that was the one. Would kids today understand the pain of a skipping CD?
I
I
mean,
mean, I
there's
guess
some
I guess the most relevant thing would be like a buffering video.
Yeah. Or if they have like, a Blu-ray or a 4K disc playing and it skips and you're like, son of a. But like, I don't think a lot of kids get Blu-rays and 4Ks. I think that's just people like me.
I do too.
Yeah. Because you don't even get them, do you?
No,
Yeah.
man, when Redbox came out in like 2009, I was like, dude, that's done. I was like, no one's doing that anymore. I was wrong, obviously, but I haven't. I don't have a physical collection. I do realize it's kind of the cool thing for movie guys to do now, but movie people. But
I,
go
I
on.
yeah, I have an entire movie collection over there that I've sorted through. But I need to put them somewhere. I'll figure it out. That's the problem. They just take up so much space. But yeah, I think buffering, like you said, would probably be the closest thing. There's
I
a
wonder if
line
they
in
would
this.
understand what was happening in that scene. Maybe current high school kids would, but I don't think current middle
No,
schoolers would. If they're up there
no,
dancing and all of a sudden they just hear the
it's like a
skipping.
VHS tape. Would they even know what that is?
Yeah, I mean, probably they probably
I
know.
mean,
I mean, I
you
remember
know what
like my
rotary phones
parents
are.
always,
Yeah.
yeah, and like records and stuff. And I mean, I remember my parents being like, "Do you even know what that is?" Like a record player, and I did, and but I don't know. I mean, we are it's nuts. I mean, I apparently like last year or the year before that was the first year since like '91 or something that records outsold CDs.
Wow.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, they're becoming big again. Like I see
Oh,
more records in stores now than I see CDs. People
yeah.
love listening to them like that. I guess the sound is clearer.
Yeah, it's just people being vintage and hipstery. I think it just kind of comes back around to be cool.
Mm-hmm. There's a line in this movie where like or I keep wanting to call her Gretchen, but Regina is like over a size 5 and she feels like she's not attractive anymore and she's like, "Oh, I'm fat now." And I'm like, "No. no one would think that. I mean, maybe some people might would think that, but like, it's such a ridiculous thing to think. Like, oh, I'm a size 6. I'm no longer attractive.
It would be a
Yeah,
size
I think her
7.
delivery of the line.
a
Yeah,
size
I,
7.
I think her delivery of the line is kind of funny though. I mean, I think she's like, "It's 5. Stop." Like, I think it's she nails the line. I mean, and it's I mean, yeah, obviously it's insane, but
Yeah,
their whole premise is insane.
the whole yeah
So I mean, I think it plays to her character though.
yeah
I think it's
uh,
definitely a status thing too. I mean, you see Regina's family is obviously quite wealthy, and this is a high-end store, and I mean, high-end stores are kind of known for not being very size inclusive, at least especially in the early 2000s that was a thing, and shopping at a
yeah.
135 or a place that is known for that is kind of a status symbol. I mean, to this day, Abercrombie clothes, the sizes run significantly smaller than the same size in a different brand. So it's like a status item. I think even more so than her feeling a certain way about her body. I think it's her feeling a certain way about what she can what she can publicly present. You know, she can't go to that store anymore.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I absolutely buy that. I never thought about it from that perspective. Good point. Mm, do you guys think anyone would call Regina a fat ass? Actually,
just Regina.
I don't think so because she gets called that. But it's like I
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
a
if
girl's
like
being mean maybe to get at her.
if she had used that insult towards somebody in the past and then they see an opportunity, like because it's obviously getting to her, then that's one way, I guess. Like it
Yeah,
could happen, but
yeah. Okay, I buy that.
a weird
How
moment.
realistic is that assembly?
I mean, even I don't think they're. I mean, I don't think it's very realistic, but I also don't think it would necessarily be as productive as they portray it to be to air out dirty laundry in front of the entire school from each group of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we had something similar happen where there was like a senior prank, and then there was another senior prank, and then there was another senior prank, and that one did not go very well. And the principal came over the intercom and was like, "All right, no senior is leaving this parking lot," or I forget how he phrased it, until someone confesses of what happened here. But there was no assembly held. There was no nothing like that held. But it was something along those lines.
Hmm.
So it's sort of realistic, but to the degree in which it takes place in this film, I don't think so.
Yeah. I am trying to envision that from the perspective of a teacher. I mean, my students are a little bit older, not too much. And what I love about that scene is Tina Fey, I'm sorry, Ms. Norbury improvising. You see her kind of try something and then backstep and say, "Well, no, well, what we can do today is this." And she's totally making up her lesson plan on the fly. And yeah, that's very realistic. That happens all the time. But I think the students actually responding to it and act like I have asked classes to close their eyes and think about something before, and about I don't know, 10% of them will close their eyes for 4 seconds and then they'll glance around and see that nobody else's eyes are shut and then they'll glare at me. So it's like, I just don't think that they would actually get the buy in. I think that they would sit there and sulk and not talk about their personal problems with their friend group because a teacher told them to.
Yeah, it seems very idealistic, and that might be why I love it because I'm an idealistic person. But yeah, to that degree, the buy-in and stuff like that, especially from kids, it's like you tell, as we know, a 2-year-old to do something. It's like no, but even as you get older, sometimes it gets worse. You tell a teenager to do something, usually to do the opposite, the exact opposite.
Yep.
And the more you tell them you should do this, the more they rebel.
But
So
like
yeah,
Walker said, they probably shouldn't do that. They probably shouldn't publicly announce every intimate detail of their lives in a school assembly.
No, usually when you throw shit around like that, everyone just ends up covered in shit, right?
That's
So
funny.
it never ends up ending well. Um, but out of all these scenes, does this make sense of what I mean? We kind of explained the do kids still do three-way call attacks? I imagine they kind of do. Would kids understand the pain of a skipping CD? I'm sure that they would. You explained very well the whole my size 5 issue. And no, you explained that very well, Carleigh. So I don't really have an issue there anymore. Would no one call Regina a fat ass? Like, once again, Carleigh, you explained that very well. I could see a kid saying like, "Yeah, I'm calling her that," just to get under her skin. So I think, how realistic is that assembly? I don't think it's very realistic. I think that's got to be the award. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think that's the move.
Yeah. All right, MVP of the movie. Who you got, Walker?
I mean, I ended up on Tina Fey. I mean, I think I thought the screenplay is so relevant for the time, and even still, it plays, and her performance in it and her character are great. So I think I mean, Tina Fey's the winner for me.
Yeah, winner for me as well. This movie is in her debt. Like, the direction's good, the performances are really good, but the performances are really good not only because the actors are good in them, it's because of what's on the written page. And what's on the written page is excellent because what Tina Fey has done is tapped into something that I think is a little bit timeless. Granted, you don't have internet's not as big in this movie, right? You see computers, you see all that stuff, but it's different. But there's this timeless quality that these clicks and these things like that, they still probably exist in schools. I don't talk to high schoolers these days, but I'm sure that they still exist. Hey, buddy.
I'm going Tina Fey too. Fight the president.
Vice President Tina Fey. What do you
He's been
think?
sitting behind me staring. Sorry,
No, you're fine.
derails.
No, that didn't derail us. He's the special guest of this show. What do you think, Carleigh?
I'm sorry, what was the question? I got totally distracted by Q Puppy.
MVP of the movie.
Oh, Tina Fey for sure. Yeah. I mean, those one-liners are just the whole movie. I mean, that there's heart and soul in the characters, but it comes through in those moments in the script, I think for sure.
Yeah, it is a tight, very well written script. I think that's why it has that timeless quality to it. But at the end of the day, guys, why would you recommend this movie?
I think it's a modern day classic. I think it's. I mean, there's a reason I have barely seen this movie or seen it in parts or anything, and I know like almost every line in the movie, and I know specifically like the context of the line. Glen Coco, you can't sit with us on Wednesdays. We wear pink. So you agree? You think you're pretty? I mean, there's so many that I mean, I knew were coming, and there's a reason because they're just iconic lines from iconic characters. Somehow it balances being a time capsule of 2004, but still being relevant and playing today, which is a wild balance to be able to work out. So I think it's definitely just something you got to see.
Yeah, I agree. I think it it's just so it's just old enough to where it feels nostalgic for people like us, but it's still relevant enough to where people that are growing up now can cling to it and get some lessons from it. And as someone who often struggles with high school movies, because my high school experience was very unique because I was homeschooled for 5 years and then I went straight to high school. So it creates a very unique experience. And I have trouble sometimes relating to high school movies and not feeling accurate, I think, because of that. But Mean Girls and 21 Jump Street are like my two favorite high school movies because I feel like it's less of a, like Carleigh talked about earlier, reliving the glory days, or being like what you talked about earlier, Walker, with the hey fellow kids with the skateboard on my back. It feels very authentic to the time and to the characters, and I think that's why movies like Mean Girls have lived on in our pop culture because they're still very relevant to today. And I think that that's why I would recommend this movie. It's really great.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you think about the so much of our dialogue that has come from this movie specifically, and the number of cultural references that you might not get if you haven't seen the film and haven't seen those in context specifically. I'm thinking of Get In Loser, We're Going Shopping, and how I've seen that on bumper stickers and in a few other places. And I've actually had somebody ask me, like, I think this is really funny, but I don't know what it's from. That's from Mean Girls. That's a whole thing. But it really is that moment for our generation where you can see your high school experience reflected in there. I mean, everything from the costume design to the way they talk to each other to the things that they joke about and kind of the roles that they embody. They say some stuff that is absolutely not okay and shouldn't be okay anymore, but was exactly the kind of not okay thing that you would hear in a high school hallway in 2004, 2002.
Mhm.
And it just kind of gives you that moment where, yeah, in a very stylized way, this was the experience. So I think that's a valuable part.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
agree. I think that's well said.
Yeah, greatly said, Carleigh. So weird calling you Carleigh. So weird. Don't like it.
Yeah, let's not do that anymore.
No.
Um, well, we got anything else?
I'm all tapped out, man.
Yeah,
Very cool. Well, I think that does it for this week. Thank you for joining us, Carleigh.
thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, babe.
Thank you all again for listening. If you're hearing this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thanks for watching. If you're catching us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe for more movie talk each week, and let us know below, what did you think of Mean Girls 2004? Have you seen the new Mean Girls? What did you think of that? But with that said, it's been Ben and Walker and Carleigh, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye. We're Fetch.